The story begins on a quiet, damp autumn evening in a small suburban neighborhood in London. Rain had fallen earlier in the day, leaving the streets glistening with puddles that reflected the warm, amber glow of the streetlights. The leaves, yellow and brown, clung stubbornly to the trees, and a gentle mist hovered low, giving the neighborhood an almost magical, ethereal feel. Inside a modest, but well-loved house on Oakwood Road, James returned from his workday. He was a man in his mid-30s, wearing a slightly damp jacket, and carrying a small grocery bag with the evening's dinner ingredients. His hair was damp from the rain, his shoes squelched faintly as he walked up the steps to the front door, and though he was tired, there was a soft, contented smile on his face. Inside, the house smelled faintly of lavender, Lily's favorite, and the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread lingered from earlier that morning. Lily, also in her mid-30s, stood in the kitchen with a soft cloth tucked into her pocket, carefully arranging the table for dinner. Her hair was loosely tied back, and her eyes held a gentle warmth that spoke of patience, kindness, and quiet strength. She glanced up as James entered, a subtle smile breaking across her face, as she noted his damp coat and slightly disheveled appearance. Ethan, their 7-year-old son, was in the living room on the floor, constructing a precarious tower from wooden blocks. His small hands moved with precision, occasionally toppling part of the tower in gleeful frustration, and then rebuilding it with even more determination. He looked up at James as he entered, grinning broadly, a small smudge of flour on his cheek from his earlier snack. James set the grocery bag down carefully, mindful not to disturb the block tower, and scooped Ethan into his arms, spinning him lightly. "Careful," Lily called, laughing softly. "Don't knock it all over." The family laughed together, a simple, everyday moment that carried the quiet power of love. They sat down for dinner at the small kitchen table, a meal of roasted chicken, fresh vegetables, and mashed potatoes, accompanied by warm tea. Conversation flowed easily, filled with stories of Ethan's day at school, a funny incident involving a classmate, and gentle teasing about who could make the tallest block tower. James listened attentively, his hand brushing Lily's across the table occasionally, a subtle touch that spoke volumes. After dinner, James cleaned up the dishes while Lily helped Ethan into his pajamas. The evening continued in its gentle rhythm. Ethan played with a small toy train on the living room rug, weaving intricate tracks while James and Lily settled on the couch, holding hands and quietly observing their son. The lights were dim, soft and golden, and the rain tapped gently against the windows. The house was warm, cozy, and safe, a perfect cocoon from the outside world. As the night progressed, James and Lily began to talk quietly about their lives, their dreams, and their challenges. They spoke of James' recent projects at work, the stress he had been under, and the long hours he had endured. Lily shared her own small victories and setbacks from her day, the little things that often went unnoticed, but mattered deeply to her. Their conversation was intimate, honest, and grounding. They laughed, teased, and occasionally fell silent, simply enjoying the presence of one another. Ethan, now sleepy, crawled into Lily's lap, resting his head against her shoulder as she hummed softly. James wrapped his arm around Lily, pulling her close. In that quiet, unremarkable evening, there was a profound sense of connection. Their love was neither dramatic nor extravagant, it was real, steady, and comforting, the kind that had grown over years of shared experiences, challenges, and joys. Just as the family settled into their routine, the phone rang. Its shrill tone cut through the calm like a sudden gust of wind. Lily answered, and her expression shifted immediately. The voice on the other end was serious, urgent. A medical emergency had occurred. Someone close to them needed help immediately. The words were precise and short, but their meaning was devastating. The evening, once ordinary and calm, had transformed into uncertainty and tension. James and Lily exchanged a glance, their hands tightening slightly. There was no time to waste. They moved quickly, but with careful deliberation, gathering essentials for Ethan while trying to maintain a sense of calm. "It's going to be okay," James said softly, his voice steady despite the worry he felt. Lily nodded, wrapping a warm coat around Ethan and holding him close. The drive through London at night was tense. Rain streaked across the windshield, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and white. The air was thick with apprehension. James focused intently on the road, gripping the wheel with a mix of determination and anxiety. Lily, seated beside him, spoke softly to Ethan, explaining the situation in terms he could understand. She held his small hand in hers, squeezing it gently to reassure him that everything would be all right. Ethan, sensing the gravity, but trusting his parents, remained quiet for most of the drive, occasionally glancing between them with wide, worried eyes. The city blurred past, a mix of yellow streetlights, reflections on wet roads, and distant sounds of traffic. The tension in the car was palpable, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of unity. Even in fear, they were together, and that togetherness was a source of quiet strength. When they arrived at the hospital, the scene was chaotic yet strangely calm at the same time. Nurses moved quickly, doctors spoke in clipped, precise tones, and the fluorescent lights cast a stark glow across the reception area. James and Lily held hands tightly, their fingers interlaced, Ethan between them. The reality of the situation was immediate and undeniable. Every step, every decision, felt heavier than usual. Yet, in this tense environment, their bond was reinforced. The love they had cultivated over years became their anchor amidst uncertainty. They waited, sitting together on a plastic bench in the hallway, exchanging whispered words of reassurance. James brushed Lily's hair behind her ear, Lily rested her head against his shoulder, and Ethan clung to both, drawing strength from their presence. Time seemed to stretch, every second amplified in intensity. In these moments, small gestures became monumental, the soft touch of a hand, the warmth of a shared blanket, the calm tone of a familiar voice. As the night deepened, James and Lily reflected silently on their life together, the arguments that now seemed trivial, the hurried mornings and busy days, the small acts of love they often took for granted. They realized, in a way that only moments of crisis allow, what truly mattered: the presence of one another, the safety and happiness of their child, and the quiet, enduring love that had carried them through life. Finally, as the first hints of dawn crept through the hospital windows, the immediate crisis passed. Relief washed over them in waves, soft, trembling, profound. Ethan's small hand still held Lily's, and James squeezed it gently, a silent promise of protection, presence, and love. They left the hospital quietly, walking back to their car, the city still wet from the rain, the streets empty and glowing softly in the early morning light. The drive home was quiet. There was no need for words. They simply sat together, absorbing the night, the tension, and the relief. By the time they returned to their house, the sun was just beginning to rise, spilling golden light across the wet pavement. Inside, the house welcomed them, the familiar warmth, the quiet comfort, the small, ordinary things that mattered most. As they settled Ethan back into bed, James and Lily shared a long, silent moment in the living room. The night had changed everything. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and vulnerability, but it had also strengthened their love, reminded them of priorities, and anchored them in what truly mattered. Holding each other close, they realized that the ordinary moments, the meals, the laughter, the bedtime routines, were gifts, fragile and precious. And in that quiet dawn, with London waking slowly outside, James and Lily understood something fundamental. Love is most powerful not in grand gestures, but in presence, unity, and the courage to face the unknown together. The night air outside was heavy with dampness as James navigated the quiet streets of London, headlights cutting through the mist. Every turn and puddle reflected the flickering streetlights, and the distant hum of traffic added a low, constant rhythm to the tense silence in the car. Inside, James's hands gripped the wheel tightly, knuckles white. Beside him, Lily sat with Ethan tucked between them on the back seat, his small face pressed against a blanket, eyes wide and uncertain. The phone call they had received earlier still echoed in their minds. A serious medical emergency involving a neighbor they considered family. Though the person was not related to them, the depth of their bond made the situation feel like a direct threat to the stability of their small world. James had driven fast, but cautiously, navigating narrow streets slick with rain while mentally replaying every instruction the dispatcher had given. Lily's voice, soft and calm, tried to soothe Ethan, explaining that everything was going to be fine. Her hand rested on his knee, occasionally reaching back to gently stroke his hair. Ethan, normally energetic and talkative, was unusually quiet, sensing the seriousness of the situation without fully understanding it. In the car, the tension was palpable. James occasionally stole glances at Lily, noticing her jaw tight with worry, the faint creases on her forehead illuminated by the passing streetlights. He wanted to reassure her, but words felt inadequate. Finally, he spoke, voice steady despite the worry. "We'll get there, Lily. We're together, and that's what matters." She nodded, her eyes moist but resolute, whispering, "I know. We'll face it together." The quiet strength in her voice provided a small, crucial anchor. Ethan, sensing the tension, but finding comfort in their presence, reached out to hold both of their hands simultaneously, his small fingers intertwined with theirs. Arriving at the hospital, the scene was chaotic. Emergency vehicles were parked haphazardly, flashing lights bouncing off the wet pavement. Nurses moved quickly, their faces serious but controlled. Doctors issued instructions in clipped tones, and the sterile smell of antiseptic mixed with the faint chill of the night air. James and Lily moved through the doors, holding each other tightly while keeping Ethan close. Every step was heavy with uncertainty, yet their bond gave them a quiet determination to face whatever awaited inside. They were guided to a waiting area, a long, stark corridor illuminated by fluorescent lighting that cast a cold, harsh glow on the polished floors. They sat together, hands clasped tightly, Ethan between them, occasionally asking soft questions. Lily answered with care, her voice gentle, steady, grounding him while also soothing James, who rarely allowed his anxiety to show. Time stretched, each minute feeling longer than the last. The waiting area seemed to shrink, amplifying every sound, the echo of distant footsteps, the murmur of hospital staff, the occasional beep from machines. James and Lily exchanged whispered words of support, leaning on each other in moments of silence. Every glance, every small touch, was an unspoken affirmation: "We are together, we will face this, and nothing can break our bond." Ethan, growing restless, eventually crawled into Lily's lap. She held him close, rocking gently as she whispered stories of courage and hope. James reached over, brushing her hair behind her ear, and kissed her cheek softly. In that quiet, tense space, there was no need for grand gestures. Small touches carried more weight than words ever could. After what felt like hours, a doctor emerged with news. The situation, though serious, was under control, and the person they cared about would be stabilized. Relief washed over them, mingled with exhaustion and lingering fear. James exhaled slowly, holding Lily and Ethan close. The family had endured a night of fear together, and though nothing had changed in the outside world, their connection had deepened immeasurably. The drive home was quiet but peaceful. Rain had eased, leaving a soft mist over the streets. The city was calm, almost serene. James drove slowly, savoring the quiet after the storm. Lily held Ethan's hand in the back seat, both of them feeling the unspoken acknowledgement of life's fragility and the preciousness of family. Returning home, they slipped into the warm embrace of their familiar house. Ethan was tucked into bed, still holding the blanket Lily had wrapped around him. James and Lily lingered in the living room, letting the silence speak for them. They did not need words to describe what had happened. The night had reminded them of life's delicate nature and the enduring power of love. As dawn broke, spilling golden light into the living room, they sat together quietly. No one moved or spoke much, yet the air was full of unspoken promises. They understood, without saying it aloud, that they would treasure these ordinary moments from that night forward. The night had changed everything, not externally, but internally, within their hearts, reinforcing the love and commitment they had shared for years. The hours following the emergency unfolded slowly, a mixture of tension, reflection, and quiet realizations. Back in the house, the rain had stopped, leaving a damp, misty sheen on the streets outside. Inside, James and Lily sat in the dimly lit living room, Ethan asleep between them on the couch, his small chest rising and falling gently. The house, once a place of calm routine, now felt charged with the memory of the night's events. James poured 2 cups of tea, the steam curling into the air, carrying warmth and comfort. Lily accepted her cup, hands wrapped around it, savoring the heat and the moment of quiet connection. "I can't believe how fast everything can change," she whispered, her voice barely above the hum of the kettle. James nodded, staring into the liquid as if seeking clarity. "It's frightening," he admitted softly. "One minute everything feels normal, the next, you realize life can be gone in an instant." But then, he looked at Lily, a subtle smile breaking across his tired face. "Then you see what matters most." They reflected on the moments of the night, the fear, the uncertainty, the vulnerability. Every detail, every heartbeat seemed magnified in hindsight. They recalled Ethan's small hand gripping theirs, the way he had leaned on them, the strength he unknowingly provided. They realized that love was not just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about presence, patience, and support during moments of crisis. The couple moved to the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast for Ethan, who had woken early with wide, curious eyes. As he ate, they watched him silently, marveling at the innocence and resilience of a child. Every giggle, every curious glance, reminded them that life's value was in the small, everyday joys and that love must be expressed continuously, in tangible ways, every single day. James suggested they take a short walk around the neighborhood, to breathe in the fresh air, and let the night's tension dissipate. Wrapped in coats, they stepped outside, Ethan between them, holding both hands. The street was quiet, morning fog softening the edges of the familiar landscape. Each step was deliberate, a meditation of sorts, allowing them to reflect on life, love, and the fleeting nature of existence. During the walk, James and Lily spoke openly for the first time in years about their priorities, the things that mattered and the trivial distractions that often consumed them. Arguments about chores, work stress, or minor disagreements suddenly felt irrelevant. What remained, what was essential, was love, unity, and the presence of one another. Returning home, they spent the rest of the morning together in silence, yet the atmosphere was different, charged with a newfound intimacy. Every glance, every touch, every shared smile carried deeper meaning. They cleaned the living room, folded laundry, and prepared Ethan's favorite snacks, doing mundane tasks with awareness, gratitude, and love. By afternoon, the house felt lighter. The emotional weight had shifted from fear to appreciation. James and Lily sat together on the couch again, Ethan playing quietly nearby. They held hands and allowed themselves to simply exist together, understanding that the night had irrevocably changed their perspective. They were no longer taking life for granted. They were fully present, fully aware of the fragile, fleeting beauty of each moment. The morning after the night that had shaken their world, the house felt different, still familiar, yet touched by a newfound sense of reverence. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, soft and golden, dust motes dancing in the gentle beams. The rain had long stopped, leaving the streets outside glistening faintly, and the air smelled of damp earth mixed with the faint scent of brewing coffee. Inside, James and Lily moved quietly, careful not to wake Ethan too abruptly, yet energized by the shared understanding that their lives had changed. They sat together at the kitchen table, cups of tea in hand. The silence between them was not uncomfortable, it was contemplative, reflective, a space for absorbing the depth of the previous night's events. James traced the rim of his mug slowly, eyes thoughtful. "I can't stop thinking about it," he said softly. "How quickly life can flip. One second you're just living, and the next, you realize how fragile it all is." Lily reached across the table and held his hand. Her touch was firm yet tender, grounding him. "I know," she replied. "But you know what? It also showed us how strong we are. How we can face fear together. And how much love really holds everything together." Ethan stirred awake, rubbing his eyes and yawning. Seeing his parents sitting quietly, he climbed onto Lily's lap, instinctively seeking comfort. She hugged him close, whispering, "Good morning, my love. You slept well?" He nodded sleepily, and James placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder, ruffling his hair affectionately. The small family unit, once tested by fear, now felt more united, more grounded than ever. Later that morning, James suggested a walk to the nearby park. The air was crisp, the autumn leaves crunching softly beneath their feet, a gentle reminder of the cycles of life, change, growth, and renewal. Ethan ran ahead, laughing as he kicked leaves into the air, the sound echoing through the empty streets. Lily watched him with a soft smile, a mix of joy and protective love, while James followed behind, occasionally glancing at her, sharing silent acknowledgements of gratitude for their life together. During the walk, conversation flowed gently but deeply. They spoke of dreams they had put aside, opportunities missed, and the importance of prioritizing what truly mattered. Lily admitted she had taken small moments for granted, the laughter, the quiet evenings, even the mundane routines of breakfast and bedtime stories. James admitted to similar feelings, reflecting on the long hours at work and minor irritations that no longer seemed worth worrying over. They laughed softly, sharing stories of trivial disagreements from the past that suddenly felt insignificant, replaced by the overwhelming realization of what really mattered: presence, love, and connection. Returning home, they decided to engage in simple, intentional acts together. Lily cooked a special breakfast with Ethan's favorite pancakes, while James prepared coffee and organized small tasks around the house. They cleaned and tidied the living room together, folding blankets, arranging cushions, and lighting candles that cast a warm glow across the room. The simple acts of care and cooperation became symbolic. They were not just restoring the house to order, they were restoring their connection, nurturing it deliberately, moment by moment. By mid-afternoon, the family gathered in the living room. Ethan played quietly with his toys while James and Lily sat close together, their hands intertwined. Soft music played in the background, gentle melodies that echoed the calm and reflective mood. They shared memories of their early years together, the small apartment, the first dinner they had cooked as a couple, the awkward yet tender moments that built the foundation of their marriage. Each recollection brought smiles, laughter, and sometimes tears. The realization dawned on them that love is not always loud or dramatic. Often, it is quiet, steady, and persistent, sustaining life through the ordinary and extraordinary alike. As evening approached, the family moved to the living room window, gazing at the fading light over the quiet neighborhood. The sky was painted in hues of pink and gold, the gentle dusk settling in. James wrapped his arm around Lily, pulling her close, and whispered softly, "We've been given a gift, a reminder to cherish every moment." Lily rested her head against his shoulder, breathing deeply, feeling the weight and warmth of the words. Ethan, nestled between them, smiled, sensing the serenity and security surrounding him. That night, after tucking Ethan into bed, James and Lily sat together on the couch, the house quiet except for the soft ticking of a clock. They talked in whispers, sharing hopes, fears, and promises for the future. They spoke of building a life that prioritized love, gratitude, and presence. The night was long, filled with reflection, yet peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous evening. By the time they finally drifted into sleep, the bond between them felt renewed, stronger than ever. The night of crisis had transformed into a catalyst for reflection, reconnection, and clarity. They had faced fear, confronted uncertainty, and come out not only intact, but profoundly changed. Their hearts were aligned, their love reaffirmed, and their small family. The following morning, the sun rose over London with a gentle, golden glow. The rain from the previous night had left the streets glistening, and a light breeze carried the scent of damp leaves and early blossoms. Inside the house, the atmosphere was calm yet infused with a sense of renewal. James stirred first, taking a moment to quietly observe the living room, the quiet light, and the small traces of their lives, Ethan's toys, a forgotten blanket, a mug from yesterday. Every object seemed imbued with the memory of the night they had endured and the lessons they had learned. He moved softly to the kitchen, preparing breakfast, a small gesture that felt profound in the wake of everything that had happened. Lily joined him shortly after, dressed casually, her hair slightly mussed from sleep, her eyes still carrying the softness of early morning. She smiled, a quiet expression of gratitude and love. Together, they prepared pancakes, eggs, and tea, working side by side in a domestic harmony that felt richer and more meaningful than ever. Ethan appeared soon after, rubbing his eyes sleepily, but already animated with curiosity. He darted around the kitchen, excitedly asking questions about breakfast and the day ahead. James lifted him onto the counter, holding him while Lily handed him a plate. Their laughter was soft but full, a testament to the deep relief and joy that followed the night's fear. After breakfast, the small family decided to spend the day outside, taking a leisurely walk to the nearby park. The air was crisp, the colors of autumn vibrant against the backdrop of London's familiar architecture. Ethan ran ahead, kicking piles of leaves and laughing exuberantly. James and Lily walked hand in hand, occasionally glancing back to watch their son's playful antics. They shared quiet conversations about the importance of cherishing everyday moments, the laughter, the walks, the soft, unspoken acts of love that sustain relationships. During their walk, James suggested a small ritual to commemorate the night that had changed them, the planting of a small flower in their backyard. Lily agreed, and together they chose a modest rose bush. The act was simple yet symbolic, planting hope, nurturing growth, and honoring life. Ethan helped by patting the soil around the base of the plant, a small but meaningful contribution that tied him to the lesson of presence and care. Returning home, they spent the afternoon in quiet companionship. Lily read aloud from a storybook to Ethan, her voice soft and rhythmic, while James repaired a small broken shelf, working diligently, but with gentle precision. Each action was imbued with mindfulness, an awareness that the mundane could carry profound meaning. They laughed at small mishaps, the shelf tipping slightly, a spilled cup of tea, and in those small imperfections found joy and connection. As evening approached, the family settled in the living room once again. Ethan played quietly on the rug, occasionally showing his parents drawings he had made, symbols of hope, love, and happiness. James and Lily shared reflective glances, understanding that the night of crisis had shifted something fundamental within them, the way they saw each other, their child, and the world. The day culminated in a quiet dinner, the house filled with the aroma of home-cooked food, soft conversation, and gentle laughter. After dinner, they sat together on the couch, Ethan nestled between them, wrapped in a blanket. They watched the city lights twinkle outside the window, reflecting on the fragility and beauty of life. James took Lily's hand, holding it gently. "We survived something terrifying last night," he said softly, "and yet here we are. Together. Stronger than before." Lily leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his words, and whispered, "Yes. And we will never take these moments for granted again. Ethan yawned, his small hand clutching Lily's, and nestled closer. James and Lily exchanged one last glance, a silent agreement to prioritize love, presence, and unity above all else. The lessons of the night, the fragility of life, the enduring power of connection, and the significance of ordinary moments, were imprinted deeply in their hearts. As night fell, the family prepared for bed. The house was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of bedside lamps. Ethan slept peacefully, comforted by the presence of his parents. James and Lily lingered in the living room for a few more moments, holding hands, absorbing the stillness, and committing silently to live fully, love deeply, and cherish each day together. In that small London home, the night had indeed changed everything, but not in ways visible to the world. It had changed hearts, perspectives, and the quiet rhythm of love, binding a husband, wife, and child more closely than ever before. And as the first light of dawn crept across the city, they knew that life's fragility was no longer a source of fear. It was a reason to treasure every heartbeat, every touch, every laugh, and every moment spent together. The end.